Well, aloha, ladies and gentlemen. You are watching PWT Talks NXT, or, listening to it if this is after the fact. I'm Kelly Wells, and you can find me on social media at SpookyMilk or at SpookyMilk.games. We're talking NXT for July 9th, 2024. Nate Lindberg, do you believe in Joe Hendry?
You just said his name, and he appeared. How about that? How about that? I do believe in Joe Hendry.
I thought I was catching you with something.
Nope, I had that planned for the last 10 minutes.
For those of you who are listening to this after the fact, I asked that thinking I got him got. He had a picture of Joe Hendry with his winning smile ready for me. And
yes, I did.
And he showed it to me at that moment. He clearly does believe in Joe Hendry. So
there he is.
Obviously, no surprise, really, that Hendry was the surprise tag team partner in this one. Our opening segment saw Ethan Page doing all the things that we would want a heel like Ethan Page to do. Really kind of hammering home why they're going with him. Oro Mensah has got the issue with him and showed up first, but he was yanked out of there. Trick Williams showed up. Shawn Spears, Javon Evans, they're all there. Everybody from the Fatal 4-Way. Evans. Long story short, Brooks Jensen said that he had to make an impact. I thought that meant, impact, wink, wink. And it might still mean that. But he attacked Javon Evans to screw up this main event, meaning that they needed to find a different partner for Trick Williams. And that partner was found in the form of Joe Hendry. So for all of you who were worried that Hendry was eliminated first in that battle royal in the way that he was, and I said at the time, don't worry, the shine that this guy got is worthwhile. He was in this main event and he won. He scored the pin over Shawn Spears as Trick and Joe Hendry beat Ethan Page and Shawn Spears. What was it? A power slam, a choke slam. It was a choke slam. Yes. And Trick Williams had hit the trick knee on Spears outside the ring before this happened. Oro Mensah showed up in this one too. So they're not able to do all the things they want to do with Metaphor right now, but they are at least forwarding Oro Mensah's story. And Joe Hendry, arguably the star of this show. Maybe that's not arguable. I guess I will see if you, Nate Lindberg, will argue with me.
No, I won't. Matter of fact, like the closing moments of the show was Joe Hendry and Trick Williams waving their hands in the air to Joe Hendry's theme song. And I mean, I don't know, think about it. 6 months ago, would you think a TNA guy would be standing in the ring with an NXT guy on NXT TV with the TNA theme song playing? No, you didn't, because I didn't either. Like it's such a cool time in wrestling right now, especially with the WWE willing to work with other promotions for the first, well, I wouldn't say for the first time ever. They've done it before, but for the first time in the modern era, I guess we could say. I think it was really cool to see this. A lot of people were talking about how Joe Hendry got eliminated from that battle royal like super quick. And they were like, oh, it's such a waste of Joe Hendry. And I'm like, no, that was the perfect use for Joe Hendry. Like he came out, he got a pop, his music got to play. He furthered his TNA feud with Frankie Kazarian. It completely worked. But I didn't think it was going to be the last time we saw Joe Hendry in NXT, especially with the reaction that he got from the crowd that night, as well as just how viral his theme song has become. I mean, It is it's on the charts in the UK. It's on the radio in the UK. How weird is that? Like, if you're a non-wrestling fan, you're like, who is Joe Hendry? You know, I like it. It's cool. But I think it was a good idea to bring him back, capitalize on it. I mean, social media went crazy when he showed up. I mean, they're really going crazy all night with, Joe Hendry's picture showing up at the beginning of the show, and just kind of a bunch of little hints about saying his name or believing throughout the course of the night. So I definitely think it was thumbs up bringing him in. He looked great. I think this is probably, to be honest, the first Joe Hendry match I've watched front to back. I've seen, clips and things on YouTube, but like I've said in the past, I'm not a huge TNA fan, so I don't go out of my way to watch it or anything like that. Plus, there's just a lot of things going on in the world, so have to focus on other things other than wrestling sometimes. As weird as that is to think about. Um, like I said, I think this was cool. Javon Evans getting taken out obviously was to kind of to set up for Joe Hendry entering the match. But yeah, like I said, all around, I think this was a solid main event. Um, Joe getting the pin, like, again, I didn't think I would ever see a contracted
He had to. Once he showed up, I think you probably saw that coming. I would
Oh
think,
yeah,
because why else? In fact, the pin combination was pretty obvious, because
right,
they're not going to job Page at this point,
right.
to anyone. But I think that
And
this is why Spears is so valuable to your
Oh,
brand.
100%. And not only that, but it wasn't like Joe Hendry got like a clean I don't want to say clean win, but for lack of a better term right now, a clean win. He didn't get one because it was the Trick Williams trick knee that ended up setting Joe Hendry up to get that choke slam for the win. So Trick, kind of, he was still involved in the finish and everything there, he being the the bigger NXT star. So I yeah, I think this was extremely well booked. It was a really fun match to watch. And I really hope we see more of Joe Hendry in NXT.
Lady B in the chat said, I watched his entrance back again, and the loud female squeals were deafening during Joe's entrance. Can't recall the last time I heard that loud reaction from female fans in particular. I guess I will suggest to you, sometimes Roman and definitely the Hardy Boys got those on a very regular basis.
NXT Finn Balor.
Yeah, sure. Especially the way that they shot him from just underneath the waist area. No secrets. That man was that man. Okay, I'm not going to say what I'm thinking. So yes, Lady B, correct. This was a good teeny bopper response from the women in the arena. Yeah, Joe didn't do anything specifically mind blowing in there, but he didn't have to. He can save stuff for later. I don't know what he's got to save. I also don't have a lot of Joe Hendry experience, so I don't know what to expect from here. But all he had to do tonight was show up. Bruce Lee Hazelwood, you're here. You just finished typing up the report. We are talking main event segment. Joe Hendry, obviously, in particular, but opening and main event, the main event scene, basically. So go ahead.
I'm not going to talk about the match too much because I'm guessing you two already did that. I'll just listen back to the show to get the thoughts on the match. So the opening segment, I really thought it was hilarious that Ethan Page said he was going to defend NXT as your NXT champion from all these outsiders and make sure they don't come into NXT and ruin what we have here in NXT that is just so very special. I thought it was just a great line from him, considering he's an outsider who came in and now is the champion, just running that heel character up. Since I wasn't with you on Sunday for the show and just Nate and I taking strays from Chris on the show. I'm just okay, but
I think he was playing around. I hope he was playing around.
Sure. No, but one thing I'm not gonna talk about the entire show. It'll take too long. One thing I wanted to talk about or put over from Heatwave is just how apoplectic Trick Williams was after the events of the main event, realizing that he wasn't involved and he lost his title, and it was only because of what he did that resulted in him losing the title. And I just thought that how he just visibly showed that anger on Sunday night. And again, tonight, just when this match started, he immediately went and started punching Ethan Page in the face. So I feel like he is, when it comes to character work, we don't have to worry about Trick Williams when it comes to these issues. Is he going to be mad enough? Is he going to be subdued enough? Is he going to be emotional enough? I think Trick has an idea of what he needs to be in those situations. And I think it's shown through after the events on Sunday and also tonight. So if after the main event on Sunday, you stayed and you saw that 2-second clip of Joe Hendry and you still didn't think he was going to be on the show tonight, okay, I'll give you a little pass. But then if you're watching the show and the various mentions of Impact or Believe or saying his name and you still didn't understand, then I don't know what to tell you, because they made it as clear as try to make it as obvious as possible that he was going to be the tag team partner for Trick Williams.
Yeah. Welcome to wrestling to those people.
Well, I think they just hit that line of beating you over the head just enough. I think a little more would have been too much, but considering the fact that NXT gets 600,000 viewers or so on average, TNA maybe at best gets 100 when they're doing well, 100K. I'm assuming that a lot of the people who watch NXT don't necessarily know Joe Hendry, don't necessarily know TNA. It helps that the crowd at Full Sail or the Capitol Wrestling Center, that they know these wrestlers, that they react strongly and positively for them, to tell the viewer that this is someone they should be aware of, right? My big concern, though, coming out of this was, did they overshadow Trick Williams with Joe Hendry from the end of Sunday into today with how he was received, him getting the pin, Vic hinting that Joe Hendry is another challenger for Ethan Page in the NXT Championship? If that is the case, then what are they going to do with Trick? And okay, I get it. You're not the champion anymore. You take a step back. But it wasn't like he lost the actual match by getting pinned, right? So what are they going to do with Trick moving forward if he does indeed take a step back with them moving with Hendry and Page? Which, if they do Page and Hendry, it's a nice little make good for TNA, I guess, considering Page's history. But I'm just concerned that Williams not only is being overshadowed now, but that they're making a mistake here by not keeping him at the forefront of that title picture because of, okay, maybe they will. Maybe they'll be another triple threat fatal four-way, but it's looking like Hendry Page might be the direction they're heading. And if that's the case, is Williams going to go back to Spears? Evans is set up with Brooks Jensen. Just not sure.
So when I did that post-show with Chris Lansdale, who was there in attendance, the one thing I'll say that he said on that show, and go back and listen to it because Lansdale was there at the show. So VIP listeners, go ahead and check that out. But Lansdale said that no matter how over you think Trick Williams is, triple it, because that was the sound that was made in the arena when that and I could tell that because they were doing the introductions for everybody for the main event, and Javon Evans, as far as a rookie goes, gets as good a reaction as any rookie could get, and the reaction for Trick just dwarfed his, just absolutely dwarfed it. So
and I listen to the post show, and I heard him say that, and I'm just going to point to many people that were just that hot, and just like that, they were done, right? Yeah. So, not to equate them, but the person I think about the most is Mizdow, right? He was hot, one of the hottest acts on the show. They didn't, and then they made one bad mistake and kept it going too long, and it fizzled. I'm just worried that they might be making a mistake here with the Joe Hendry Association and with how hot Joe Hendry is, even to a non-TNA crowd, that it might put Williams a step back. Because, Mike Gilbert, he covers TNA. He noted that TNA is more over in WWE than it is in TNA. So in that case, I'm worried that, and I get Trick is over. We've been on that train since well before he was even a thought of being over, right? Maybe that's why I'm so concerned.
So you can go to Sporkle and you can take quizzes on wrestling or on anything. And one of the quizzes you can take is winners of Money in the Bank. And for those of you who keep getting one or two misses, the ones you are missing are Damian Sandow and Ken Kennedy. Those are the ones you are missing. Yes, indeed. So, yeah, you can win that match and not necessarily go on to be champion. Yeah, that is one that you can forget. Although he at least cashed in, which Sandow, I don't remember if Sandow did, and Anderson definitely didn't. He lost the right to challenge. So there you go. Nate, go ahead.
So what? So not that I necessarily want to hijack the show, but we are taking callers now again. So we have Azan waiting. I'm just pointing that out.
That actually is what I was throwing you to do. So go ahead.
Well, then
and
I will do that.
Right on. Yep.
All right. We have Azan, I think
we brought him on, but his screen is black. So I don't know if he's actually here. Azan from St. Louis. Go ahead and say hey if you're here, and if not, we will move on.
Hey. Hello?
Hey, we hear you.
Yeah, my camera's on. There's something on your end, or?
We're hearing you just fine, but the camera is not showing you. So
all right, that's fine.
We'll just all right. So good enough. Tell us what's on your mind about NXT tonight.
I like the show and all, but do you think like the TNA is really like overshadowing like the conversation, like the Rascals tonight overshadow like the regular tag team division, and you feel like that's going to be an issue down the road, or are we just taking our time with that?
I'm going to say taking our time, because overshadowing this tag team division is, I don't know, I guess I'll say that it's not hard to do, because we've got a decent number of tag teams, but so many of them are still just kind of knocking at the door. OTM is, I think they're cool, but they haven't been pushed to any significant degree yet. Gallus have been stop-start at best. Tyson DuPont and Tyreek Igwe, I think there's stuff to like there, but they are very, very early in when they're not there. I'm not thinking about them. And the OC is, they're the OC. So I think that I'm not too worried about the Rascals / MSK overshadowing the group. I also don't know whether these guys are going to be NXT in the end, or if they're going to be TNA. So Joe Hendry, I think, is going to be NXT. I genuinely do. I think that is the reason that I was on the media call with Shawn Michaels, and the stuff he said about Joe Hendry was so nice and so glowing. I would be surprised if he didn't have plans to actually take Joe Hendry and sign him out of this. I think that could be part of what this is. So before I belabor the point, let me throw to Bruce and get his thoughts.
I guess that kind of speaks to my concern about Trick Williams tonight with Joe Hendry coming in. The Rascals thing, like, all right, Nate, that's enough. So the thing with the Rascals is, I'm one of those people who really can't separate the art from the artist, and there's just too many problematics with both Zachary Wentz / Nash Carter and Trey Miguel. So when they came out, I wasn't shocked. This is one of the things that people brought up once the TNA partnership happened. This was one of the first people were bringing up was a reunion with the Rascals. So I mean, good for them, good for the fans who like them. But I mean, I don't really care because of those two. I'd rather Wes Lee just be doing his thing. But it gives Lee something else to do aside from basically being attached to that North American Championship, the men's North American Championship, as he has been pretty much since he became a singles wrestler. So it's a nice change of pace, and we're already getting a 6-man between them and Gallus next week, which, okay, I guess it'll be fun. And I don't expect Gallus to win either. So that's another one of those things where maybe TNA is overshadowing NXT a bit. But to Kelly's point, how many of these people are, I guess, destined, maybe the best, or likely to sign with NXT, and Joe Hendry seems like one of them. I think if they can get them back, Nash Carter, Zachary Wentz would be another one, and definitely they could sign Jordan Grace. They would try to sign Jordan Grace. There are people up and down the TNA roster that you can see and say, okay, I can see them at NXT, but I think my concerns with Azan making this his first question of the night, I think it legitimizes the concerns I brought up about Trick Williams in the main event.
Kelly went away. So I'm just going to go. There he is. Say his name and he appeared.
I thought my voice would still come through even if I wasn't on the stage. That was a miscalculation. Nate, tag division.
Yes.
It's all you, man.
Tag division. So yeah, no, I in a way, I mean, I guess maybe having the Rascals show up overshadows some of the tag division, but I'm kind of okay with it. I had a feeling like, and again, not that I'm a TNA guy, but I had a feeling we'd probably wind up seeing a Rascals reunion. It just made too much sense. You've got the other, I can't, Carter and what's his name? The other guy, I can't think of his name right now.
Trey Miguel.
Zach Wentz and Trey Miguel.
Okay.
Carter is the one who used to be
in NXT.
Who is now Zach Wentz.
So
and was before.
So I had it just makes sense. Like Wes Lee's over here, they're over there. Now there's a partnership, put them together. I just assumed that was where we're going to see Wes Lee show up over there rather than TNA bringing in or bringing over two of their talent into NXT. I don't know why I assumed that, but that's what I figured was going to happen. So I was kind of pleasantly surprised to see them show up tonight. Like Kelly said, I mean, it gives Wes Lee something to do to get him out of the North American title picture. He's been so just involved in that title picture for so long, which I think is okay. I think arguably he's, I'd say one of the greatest NXT North American champions we've ever had. So I'm kind of okay with that. But at the same time, I also would like to see him move on to bigger and better things, the NXT title, for example. So, there's that. Yeah, I think that's probably all I have to say that you guys haven't already. So we'll throw it back to Azan.
Well, on the subject of tag teams, while we were talking,
or back to Bruce.
While we were talking, Chris Bay and Idris Enofe have been teasing something on Twitter. So if that's
Chris Bay and Idris Enofe?
Yes. So Chris Bay's tag team partner is Ace Austin, and they've been teasing a little something while we've been talking on Twitter. So if that's the case, please make that match on NXT and not on Impact.
Oh my God!
And please make
Chris
it,
Bay.
please make it
Oh
on
my
a day.
God!
Please make it on a day that Kelly has to do the report and not me.
Like
next week.
You know what? I'll happily do it. I have covered Bay before in New
Chris
Japan.
Bay is amazing.
Oh, mama. Okay. Be still my heart. Azan, what else do you have for us?
Seems like Charlie Dempsey is becoming like a ruthless man in NXT. First he got rid of Drew Gulak, and now he's been Damon Kemp in cars. What's going on with Charlie? He's becoming more of a monster than Tony D'Angelo lately. Is that kind of
He doesn't know that Miles Bourne is deaf, for one. That I brought up last week, and it was just reaffirmed tonight. And that's just hilarious to me.
Yeah.
Damon Kemp got released.
we talked about
That's why he was in the
Kemp.
trunk.
Yeah, we talked about Damon Kemp getting released in the chat. They didn't even say his name.
He didn't appear.
Yeah, he wasn't. He didn't even have to be there for the scene, and probably was not. He's officially gone, like August 12th, but they're gonna go ahead and write him out now, and he wasn't all that. I've specifically been kind of hard on him on the show, but he was okay, but no quarter catch club. I think is getting to a form that is a little bit stronger, but it is surprising that that such a young group has already lost 2 members. But Dempsey hopefully is worthy of being the leader of a faction. He's still early, and you want to say he's got that pedigree because his dad certainly did in a time when we didn't see a lot of factions in this company. So there's that. And then, oh boy, I was stalling because I was trying to think of the name of the guy they just added, who I really like,
Tavion Heights,
and who definitely has a name. Tavion Heights. Thank you. He's great. And they even kind of played this for Yuck Yucks with him saying, do you do this often? Okay. So I don't know if we're supposed to take this group seriously or not after this. I think that it was just a silly way to write out Damon Kemp. Nate, anything else on that?
No, I agree. I mean, I think it's a silly way to write out Damon Kemp and try to make the no quarter catch crew look a little bit more. I'm gonna say sinister. Probably not the right word, but that's what I'm gonna say. I don't know how effective it was. I mean, that NXT parking lot is the most dangerous place in the country, it seems. So I don't know. Maybe they should just start using Uber or something rather than actually driving to the venue.
The Uber still got to get to the parking lot.
That's true, but then you don't have to walk to your car. The Uber can just drop you off at the front door or something like that. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah. So I completely just lost my train of thought talking about the NXT parking lot. Oh, the no quarter catch crew. But yeah, so Damon Kemp, obviously, like you guys said, released. So it makes sense, have something to write him off TV, or rather than him just disappearing, which they've been known to do at some points, when somebody leaves company or gets released or whatnot. So yeah, I don't really have much more to add to that.
In the chat, Sean says Damon Kemp wasn't good anyway. Good riddance. Don't want anyone to lose their job, though. And BJ's response, he was better than his brother.
It's a low bar.
Yeah, I was going to say it in a slightly nicer way, but not a lot nicer.
It's like Carmen Petrovich will never have anything worse than her first match because that bar is so low.
Yeah, it would be hard for Carmen to do worse than her first match. Got to pair her up with a first timer and somehow have
Nikita
her
Lyons.
turn back the clock. Oh, Nikita Lyons. Yeah, that could actually be a worse match. Thank you for bringing her back to my brain. Ozan, if you got one more thought,
I
go
didn't get
ahead.
to talk about Dempsey.
Oh, do you want to talk about Dempsey?
Real quick, to me, what I like the most about Dempsey, and I think his character is most indicative of what the show's supposed to be, is that each week the character himself is trying to find his own identity and character, and it's, I think, like a meta commentary on development. Or I don't think they what's the word I'm looking for? Purposefully made it some kind of meta commentary on developmental, but I look at it as each week he's trying something different. Like when he was talking in the mirror the other week, And tonight, how he's repeating himself and trying to get Miles Bourne to reaffirm what he's saying and all that. I just like that it's showing a work in progress each and every week, which is what NXT, sometimes the stuff is more polished than we anticipate it to be, so we forget that it's still developmental, right? I heard a lot of commentary coming out of Sunday saying sometimes you forget that the show is developmental because of how good the matches can be, how good the characters can be, right? So I think Charlie Dempsey is most indicative right now of development in terms of the character and how each week it's something different, something new, just trying to see what sticks, but still in a way that is coherent with what they're being portrayed as.
Steve Repsher says the eternal low bar BFAB versus Electra Lopez.
I mean, Nikita versus Lash Legend was pretty bad too. But,
yep.
Yeah, but I don't think
there are three: Nikita versus Lash, BFAB versus Electra, and there was a Santana Garrett match.
Oh,
and I'm trying to remember who she was facing. Who? But
this was a good decade ago.
Yeah, Santana was. She appeared several times, never won until she had to win one because they were doing a losing streak with the other wrestler. But it wasn't even that. But there was a Santana one that was so slow that it looked like it had to be. Like it had to be a PC match. So I don't know. I'm just gonna say all the Santana Garrett matches were tied. Azan, if you're still with us, go one more time.
What do you think about you think NXT doesn't have like enough confidence in Lexis King? I feel like the other AEW guys got higher ceilings more than him. He didn't even keep his name. They like changed his name, gave him a fake beard. He keeps on losing championship matches, and like now he's feuding with Eddie Thorpe over music. That's kind of like 1992 stuff. What do you think? Like, is it his fault or they're not really? They would just pick him up because he was AEW and that was it.
I think it's a combination of a few things.
Yeah,
it is 1992 because he's bringing up rock bands that really peaked in the 90s. So there's that. So part of that is not accidental. They are going a little old school with him. But to be honest, he's just the one who needed the most work. This company did wrong by Brian Pillman in a few ways, and certainly did wrong by his wife after he died. So maybe some of that is to blame or credit for the fact that they're trying so hard with him. He knows how to be irritating. He knows how to be a heel. I wish he knew how to wrestle better, but he's at the level that he is. And he's been doing it long enough that I don't know how long you stick with that. I watch all of the little things. I take note of all the little things. And he was added to... So like when NXT shows up on your streaming service of choice, they show 6 wrestlers. And for a while, Nikita Lyons was there, and she's not there anymore, thank God. And now they started showing Lexis King even before he was signed. So it's clear they had big plans for him, because the only ones they show in those shots are ones they have big plans for. And now he's not there anymore. So I'm talking weird big picture stuff here, but I think that they thought he'd be further along by now, and I think that he's just not. I don't think any of us thought that he was all that, but we hoped that he was all the same. Bruce.
Yeah, I think they got too much confidence in him considering how much TV time he gets. Though I did like D'Angelo talking about he was gonna knock his fake ass beard off his face, which was a good line. The match itself, I guess I'll just give my thoughts on the match because we're talking about King anyway. I like that they had the the pinfalls were back to back, essentially, to get it tied. But then D'Angelo had another definitive clean finish. I think this is the second straight Heritage Cup match where D'Angelo hasn't been any interference in the match at all from anyone outside. And correct me if I'm wrong, but King had no second, right? So is this the first Heritage Cup match on NXT stateside with no second for one of the competitors? I think that's the case.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Just off the top of my head. So there's that, just showing how much of a lone wolf, I guess, or how he has no friends, which is what Paige and Sean Spears are trying to say about Trick Williams earlier in the night, or later in the night, I guess. But I wrote that this match between the two, it was just what you'd expect. Nothing exciting, nothing fantastic, nothing too bad, nothing really boring, but it was just, it was there. It was your average match. But I do think D'Angelo is improving a bit, and I do think that the Heritage Cup matches, the rounds format, is actually helping him and hone in on his in-ring style and developing more of something that is that meshes better with his character and his skill set. So, more of the slams and the suplexes that we're seeing, using the spine buster. I think, and the rounds being able to get him into sort of a storytelling mode. I think he is improving bit by bit. It's just going to be a matter of if he can translate what he's learned in these rounds matches to a full-fledged singles match that doesn't have breaks in between.
Nate, anything on that?
I mean, I more or less agree with Bruce 100% on the match itself. So I'll just kind of say ditto. But I mean, in terms of Lexis King, like I think they probably did have a little bit higher hopes for him when he came into the company. I do like the idea of giving him a new name as Lexis King and not Brian Pillman Jr. Because
he's the one who wanted it too.
Well, those are the words that were going to be coming out of my mouth next. He's the one that wanted it. He didn't want to necessarily be tied to his dad, and I mean, I can't necessarily say I blame him. Not that if your father's Brian Pillman, I mean, they are some big shoes to fill. And
what's so weird is that he doesn't know how to fill those shoes because he didn't really know the man.
Right, exactly.
Those of us of my age, in some ways, know the man better than he did, because we saw him in real time working week to week to week, and to Lexis King, his dad's just kind of a story. That's a very sad thing, and if he was a babyface, that would really work. But that's not the way they're going.
No, so like I said, I mean, I think it makes sense, to kind of give him his own identity. You're not comparing him to his father. It's not, like I said, that's not necessarily what he wanted. So, so I think it works. I personally really like the Lexis King character. I think he's obnoxious. He's exactly what you want that just annoying, sniveling heel to be. Especially with that beard that just gets more and more and more obnoxious as the weeks go on. But yeah, his in-ring work is, I mean, I don't want to say it's subpar because I don't think that at all, but I mean, it's nothing that necessarily wows you compared to the rest of the roster. Well, maybe not the entire rest of the roster, but some people on the roster. So, I don't know. I don't know if they necessarily had him in mind to be a top guy when they brought him in. You're similar to Ethan Page, who's now our new NXT champ. But I think they probably brought him in to be more of, that kind of mid-card player that he's being now. And kind of looking back at his trajectory, it makes sense. That might be where they slot him in when they originally brought him over from or stole him from AEW. And I didn't steal him, but you know what I mean. So yeah, Lexis King, he's got a weird beard.
Well summed up. So there you go. If you would like to bring Brian from Phoenix on,
I will. Azan, thank you very much. Good to talk to you, man.
Sirs.
All right. And now the man himself,
The
Brian.
legend.
Hey, gentlemen, how are all three of you doing?
Doing
very
all
well.
right, Brian. Always cool to see you. Got the many flags behind you. As a true Arizonan, you got the Arizonan flag behind you
Yeah.
as well.
What's the temperature like in Arizona today, Brian?
Good question, Doc. Bruce, first of all, it's great to see the three of yourselves and great to talk to you and great to see everybody out in the chats too. Much love to everybody out there. Today, Doc Bruce, I believe the high was 115. We'll get to that point. And Kelly knows that world too, so.
I do. I was there for about 5 years, and I believe it was the second summer I was there. There was a run of 20 days in a row where it was over 110. You just don't want to go outside. You go outside, you get your mail, you come back in, you're like, well, I guess another shower is in order. So stay cool there, Brian.
I will say this, Kelly. I know I'm older than you, Kelly, and I'm definitely a lot older than Nate and Doc Bruce. But only old people talk about weather, so let's go and just kill that part now. Really quick, this background is the same background I use at work, and there you can't see the other flags that are out there. There's like 5 flags are flying, so this is my professional background. Again, gentlemen, it's great to talk to the three of yourselves and the fans out there as well. Of course, living out here in the West Coast, I get a West Coast feed, and I'm actually out studying right now. So you're interrupting my doctoral studying, just to let you know. But I didn't see the show yet, but I kind of live by what your reports are. And it looks like Obafemi didn't do a lot this evening. Is that correct?
That is correct. Bruce, you did the report. Go ahead.
Obafemi came out after Thea Hale defeated. Who did she defeat? Somebody.
Izzy Dame.
Izzy Dame in a match where Tatum Paxley interfered. And so we're going to have Izzy Dame versus Tatum Paxley. They showed an NXT Anonymous. By the way, are they ever going to pay off NXT Anonymous? Okay. So Femi appeared on the elevator. That's exactly what I was thinking when I was writing my report. Femi appeared on the elevated concourse and basically told Duke Hudson he's going to demolish him. And Hudson said, "Oh, we've all heard it before. I'm going to give you an Andre Chase University size ass whooping." I'm reducing that a lot, but that's essentially what happened. Femi didn't have to do a lot. He doesn't have to do a lot anytime to make an impact. Him just standing up there with the title and his nice ass blouse, or not blouse, but nice ass button up, I guess, for the good term, was really all you needed. And him being confident on the mic, it's all good. After what a lot of people that I listened to and read about said was their favorite match of the night on Sunday, probably deserves to have a nice little break, a nice little day off. Being up there for 30 seconds and saying something, not a bad way to make some money. Make people remember that you're the champion, that you're the person that is really right now the big bad kind of grim reaper of not just the North American Championship scene, but of the men's division. And think about how Duke Hudson reacted when Ridge, that's his name, Ridge Holland said, "Oh, I got you a title match." "Oh, with Ethan Page." No, it's for the North American Championship." Thanks, Ridge. Like that's really all you need to know about it. Good thing for Duke coming back and having fire, but yeah, it's Obafemi. You don't have to have him do much for him to make, to use a pun here, an impact.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, I felt the same. I had another thought on him, and it's gone because now I'm thinking of how cool Obafemi looked. I think I was just getting at the fact that, yes, he earned the week off with the fact that he had the match he did, but I think that Obafemi is also good enough to be a pay-to-play guy. You don't want to overexpose him. As cool as he is and as much presence as he has, you don't need to feature him every week at a high level in order to keep him fresh in the minds of people, because he's there. He's living in our minds right now. And I think he gets away with that. And I think you don't want to put him out there as much as others. Nate.
Yeah. Oops, help if I flip my mic down. No, I mean, I agree with you guys. I mean, Obafemi at this point, well, I wouldn't say at this point he's an attraction, but he will be. You know, he's as we keep saying, he's the coolest guy on the roster. You know, so I don't think he necessarily needs to be, like Bruce said, I don't think he necessarily needs to be on every single show to have, you know, an impactful. I was trying to get away from using have an impact, and I went with impactful anyway. But yeah, you know, he doesn't need to be on the show to actually have an impact on the show. Yeah, I don't really have much more to add than what we've already talked about.
Well, to Kelly's point, they should just book him like he's their version of Brock Lesnar.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I feel the same. So he's I don't know how to add to that. He's just that good. Brian, go ahead.
I'll make this point quick, and so I like you were saying, and I literally listened to the post show with you and Chris Kelly too. It was really good.
Thank you.
I thought the match with Oba and Wes Lee was really good, and you know, I kind of almost wanted Wes to win because Oba just looks. I mean, he looks incredible, but I'm wondering, and as you know, I have Bruce's looking at Bruce. I'm looking at the report right now, Doc Bruce. I'm sorry, and I just wonder who's going to really challenge him. Challenge him is what the part I question about it. You know, I love an unstoppable monster as much as anybody else, but you know, I do want to see somebody, you know, push him to some kind of limit. And I thought Wes Lee did do a good job, though. So I'll just leave that part there. But I was going to email a question when I first dialed in. I know you're talking about John Cena, and my question was going to be, you know, what could you see somebody that's in NXT right now who in you know 4 or 5 months, 6 or 7 months could actually challenge Cena? The person's going to lose to Cena at WrestleMania, but who would you see right now in NXT that could be built up to challenge Cena, to lose to Cena at WrestleMania? And you know, for a fleeting moment, you know, did I say Obafemi? I didn't say that, but he could absorb a loss that way. He could, you know, go in and look dominant. Cena can do his thing and get a win, and it wouldn't hurt Oba at all. But yeah, that just went through my mind in and out. But I was thinking that, and then the other, I'll hang up and listen. But the other thing I will of course mention is that for Saturday's NXT 8YB, Kelly and Tom Style have a incredible program. They look at NXT 8 years back. This year, this weekend, this Saturday will be that NXT will be the first time, first time on NXT TV, first time on WWE TV, I should say. It's going to be Shinsuke Nakamura versus Finn Balor, their match. And Kelly and Tom will talk about that. And they'll also have a movie question, not by me, but by somebody else. It should be a pretty interesting movie question. So again, Nate and Kelly and Doc Bruce, thanks a lot for always having me on. I really appreciate talking to you and interacting with you three. Thanks a lot for all you do. And that's all I have. And I'll hang up and listen. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks so much,
Brian.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks.
Yes, indeed. That Nakamura Balor match that is going to be covered by us is the only match that is on that show on NXT 8 years back. So the rest
Lucky you and Tom getting to talk about a Finn Balor match for the entire show.
Tom has his issues with babyface Finn Balor.
Yes, he
even
does.
Though he very much understand. Yes, he actually quite likes what Balor does as a heel on the main roster, but it took him some time because of his issues with babyface Finn Balor. So Brian covered quite a bit of ground there. Let me throw to you, Bruce.
So on Obafemi and his potential challenger, who could actually challenge him, I know it's digging back into the TNA hole, but there's this guy there's actually a couple guys over in TNA that I think could be a good matchup. One, I think you wouldn't be as realistic in terms of believing that they would be able to win or at least take Femi to the limit, and that'd be Speedball. I just want to see Speedball in NXT, and god damn, the siren's coming.
Brian, drink. I mean, I guess I could fill the silence.
No, and so it's past. And then the other person I think about is the Walking Weapon, Josh Alexander. I think that would be a fun match, having him face off against Obafemi. In TNA, you don't have as many people who are the size of Obafemi, and so Alexander tends to be someone who doesn't tower over his opponents, but he still doesn't seem like he's getting towered over. I think it'd be an interesting dynamic to see him being towered over by Obafemi and then using his skills and Femi's power and just kind of coalescing that into a match and go from there. And then what was the second point that Brian brought up? I was just the Femi.
You don't expect me to remember that, do you?
Well,
I don't.
he did cover a lot, as Kelly said. Of course, Kelly is not here to remind us all of what Brian was saying. But regardless, Obafemi, if you can't find anyone that's actually going to Jake something would be good. Keep Moose off of NXT. Keep Moose away. Don't want anything to do with Moose to do on NXT. No, not at all. Keep him away. Jake something would be good, right? But I think Josh Alexander might be the most enticing matchup to me based off of their styles. If you're thinking that there's no one available for Femi to relinquish that title to, or for him to just relinquish it, hey, you got all ego sitting there. Wait till he gets thrown around by Obafemi. Like that right there could be a way to get it. That's what it was, the WrestleMania thing. Okay, so at first I thought you were talking about just who could face Cena throughout his last year before he retires, and I'm thinking, Trick could definitely get that victory and get the rub. Cena's talked about how much of a fan he's of Trick Williams, right? Javon Evans is someone I saw that was brought up in the chat. He can definitely be someone that you also put up toward Cena. So to me, I'd say you do that. The dark horse to me for WrestleMania, because it's someone that you could have lose and still be fine, would be Wes Lee, right? Especially considering Cena's lack of mobility with his age and the injuries he's piled up throughout his career. I'd say that Wes Lee would be a good person to have. Someone like Femi might not be the best because of how much power offense that he bases his style around, and with Cena being at his age and maybe not having as many reps in terms of taking bumps, maybe not the person you want up there. But someone like Evans, someone like Lee, I think you could go with because of all the movement they would create and the safe kind of bumps that Cena would have to take from competing with them. But overall, I think that Trick and Obafemi to beat Cena outside of WrestleMania would be kind of where you want to go and how you want to get that rep to people coming up.
There's a lot of time between now and then, and there's time to get these NXT talents ready to beat Cena in that environment. But unless any of them make massive strides between now and 7 months from now, Cena can't be beat by one of these guys. That won't be what they do. They will have him lose to Toriano, a legacy guy. Oh, here we go. Toru Yano. Those who don't watch New Japan, take a look at him and then marvel at how ridiculous we are at
greatest of all time.
At what? Stop. Just stop. Yeah, I think it'll be. I don't think it'll be a name that is currently in NXT who beats Cena at WrestleMania. Although I will say that Cena will lose at WrestleMania. Nate just gave us another quick shot of Joe Hendry, and not impossible, but also not probable. Nate, go ahead.
Well, at this rate, he's gonna lose to Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania at this point. So
yeah, I mean, it's that wouldn't surprise me if they go to Cody. But I mean, in terms of like NXT, who could they bring up from NXT to feud with John Cena? I'd really like to see Trick Williams in some sort. It would have to be a face versus face thing because I don't want to see them turn Trick Williams. But I feel like Trick and Cena could have a really great match. Like, like Bruce said, Cena, he's no spring chicken anymore. He's what, 44, 45 years old. And obviously his career is winding down. He's only going to have a few more matches before he retires. So I think somebody like Trick Williams not only has the charisma, but also has the in-ring ability to carry John Cena to a good match. Not I say carry. I don't think he'll necessarily have to carry him through the match, but but I think be able to kind of hide some of those potential limitations that Cena may have, especially after not being in the ring much over the last 3, 4, 5 years, however long it's been. So yeah, Trick Williams. However, there's one name that is correct, and it's not Joe Hendry. It's Dante Chen. It should be Dante Chen.
Everything should be Dante Chen. Let's make that clear. Brian Alston says in the chat, so you're saying Cena is going to lose his last match?
Oh yeah.
Generally
he definitely is. Not everyone does, but I think the guys who know how to do business
go out staring at
do
the lights.
That, and I do think that Cena will go out counting the lights. So, Nate, go ahead and you've already done it. Go ahead.
I was reading your mind, man.
Sean, good to see you again, and say hey. And what do you have on your mind?
Well, first, hello everyone. And when you guys put on your like Bruce, you covered the show tonight, right? And you're like, and Kelly puts up, the gang of, you guys are not idiots. Stop calling yourself idiots, okay? I know it's in a fun way. I know it's all cool, but you're not idiots. You guys know a lot about that. Come on.
I did take that from Mad Magazine, the usual gang of idiots. That's where I got it. So regardless of the level of idiot that we are, I do thank you for being in our corner.
And I will say, no, you're not. And Bruce, you're one, and you're awesome because you love WrestleMania 19 so daggum much, and I'm glad you were on that show. That was a freaking fun show you guys did. So go watch. I always say watch. You can't watch the daggum thing. Go listen to Pro Wrestling Then and Now back whenever it was, a long time ago. But it was you and John Mazzara, right? We're with Frank talking about that show. Yeah, that was a fun show. Go back and listen to that. WrestleMania 19, one of the best, most underrated WrestleManias of all time. That WrestleMania was freaking awesome. Anyway,
9 out of 10. So,
because it should have been really 9.5, but it's okay. Well, I mean, you had Undertaker go up against two people that was dumb. But other than that
was why it wasn't a half. Yeah.
Okay, so it's fun being on with you guys. Of course, I didn't get to see the whole show. I went back and looked again at your report, Bruce. Which again, I love that you do the reports because that's the only way I can keep up a lot of times. Because Tuesday nights are rough for me sometimes. But going back to. I want to talk about Tony D'Angelo because he's one I've been thinking about talking about for a while. Because from what I've seen of him, when I get to watch the show, the Dawn of NXT, it's a cool character. Like, it's fun, but I don't know. He just doesn't seem like he's doing much for me when I watch him. Like, I think he's gotten a lot better in the ring for sure. I think he has improved over time. Do you think that gimmick can get over whenever he does? I mean, it's going to be a while before he goes onto the main roster, but whenever, let's say in a year or a year and a half, he gets to the main roster, like, do you think he could have a lot of success? Do you think he will continue to improve? Or is it just like, this gimmick just kind of, it has a shelf life and it might only get to a certain level? What do you guys think?
Okay, so I think that this gimmick definitely has a shelf life and potentially has already passed that. I think it's high concept to a level that we used to see all the time in the 90s. We had Papa Shango and we were just fine with that. But we 30 years later don't necessarily accept that to the same level. Even a couple of years ago when they killed Two Dimes, we thought that was a little bit silly and high concept. As far as him in the ring, we know that the better you are in the ring and the better you are and you connect, that that the more you can get away with it. So Undertaker, I know, won like Observer's best gimmick of the year a couple of years in a row. And to be clear, it was the kind of gimmick that was winning their worst gimmick of the year almost every year. And it only won best gimmick of the year because the dude was up for it. So I guess that's your shorthand version of, do I think that Tony D can make it? Like, it's going to be entirely based on his commitment to the bit. So I worry long term about Tony D, and my own interest in him is, let's say, fraught, because I've taken a lot of shots at him. I thought he was really, really good in a tag team with Stax, because Stax could keep it. It was old school tag teaming where they each had their role, and that worked for me a lot. I don't think Tony D is a high level singles prospect, but I'll let the other guys try to convince me otherwise. Bruce.
Real quick, going back to the question about Cena WrestleMania, I wonder, depending on how hot they stay, if his last Mania match is putting over Uncle Howdy. Now, to the stuff about Tony D'Angelo, I'll just say that his ceiling is Baron Corbin.
Well,
I have
not
thought
bad.
that exact thing.
Yeah,
And
not bad.
yeah, that's not a bad thing.
That's his ceiling. That's his ceiling,
Right.
though.
Yeah.
We're not talking about his floor, right? His floor is
Oh no.
slightly better than Damon Kemp, I guess.
Oh no.
Because we've
well.
seen his floor, and it was that bad at one point, right?
That's
I
Somehow
would
they
have
still put it.
said,
Yeah.
I would have said the floor is Simon Dean,
Okay,
which
okay. But
is
that's
actually
Simon
higher
Dean.
than Damon Kemp.
They still have
I didn't
that
think
Simon
I was
Dean.
going to think about Simon Dean today.
Bobby Lashley's
Right.
first feud with Simon Dean, actually, in WWE. Now, but going
The
back to
Simon
that,
system.
the Simon
Oh,
Dean
boy.
Tony D'Angelo was the person they had basically wrestle Pete Dunne out of NXT, wrestle Tommaso Ciampa out of NXT. Not this might get to Baron Corbin's ceiling, Tony D'Angelo now. So I feel like the amount of equity they put into him leads me to believe that he will be continually on the main roster in some sort of Baron Corbin-like role, but he may win a singles title in his future. That is the absolute, it'd be like, U.S. title, Intercontinental title. That would be the absolute ceiling that he would reach in his singles career. If this is basically what we're going to see from him week in and week out, then that's going to be what his ceiling is.
Yeah.
In the chat, Brock Benningfield says, I don't think it will work on the main roster. I feel the same about Chase U.
I agree.
Yeah, I worry about it, but interestingly, I worry way more about Chase U. Every single week, I think this is working, and I don't think it'll work on the main roster. I literally, to this day, as long as he's been there, I don't see Andre Chase being pulled to the main roster in this form.
Not in this form, no. Neither.
Even though he can work.
That's what he's going to be a Tozawa
Yeah.
on the main roster.
Yeah.
Or a
And
manager. If he stays in this company, I think
Mhm.
he's going to be a manager. That's really what I think.
Mhm.
Nate, I don't think I've thrown to you. Go ahead.
No. Oh God, the question just completely escaped my brain.
Tony
what are we talking
Tony
about?
D.
Oh, Tony
D,
D'Angelo.
baby.
Thank you. No, so like even with I've said this before, but even with the last name Lindberg, I'm mostly Italian. So I like I do gravitate towards some of these mafioso, gimmicks and things like
Right.
that. I've always, enjoyed, the Godfather, Goodfellas, things like that. So I so very much want Tony D'Angelo's gimmick to work. My friends and we even made a movie called The Mob Boss, for crying out loud. Are still making it, actually, but that's beside the point. I don't think it'll work on the main roster. It could. I think it could, but in order for that to happen, I really think they'd need to put some serious booking power behind him. Give him some incredible vignettes. Maybe even put somebody with him to talk for him. Not that he's a terrible talker, but I don't think he has the mic skills to necessarily be. What was that, Bruce?
The stupid accent he talks with.
Well, yeah, there's that too. I don't think he necessarily has the chops on the mic to be a main event level, guy. In terms of that, yes, he's improved with his in-ring work. One of the things that Bruce Kelly had brought up many times on the show, probably years ago at this point, was that they wanted to see Tony D'Angelo put some of his amateur wrestling moves into his pro wrestling move set, which he's certainly done and kind of leaned into a little bit more over the years. And I think he's even doing that, now with the Heritage Cup, which is kind of nice. But at the same time, I don't really see this gimmick getting over with the fans in the way that it has in NXT. And pretty much for the same reason that I think Chase U got over in NXT, and it probably wouldn't work on the main roster, is because it's shot in the Performance Center. It's shot in the same location with majority of the same fans week after week after week after week. And they grow to love these characters. They wind up having inside jokes with these characters, whether those inside jokes happen on screen or off screen. So it becomes a much more intimate setting because it's the same crowd week after week after week. I think if you were to just take both Chase University and the D'Angelo family, just pluck them right out of NXT, put them on the main roster, 15% of the audience, maybe 15 to 30% of the audience would know who they are. Maybe a little bit more might have an idea of who they are, but I don't think it would. I don't think it would work. I don't think those characters, those gimmicks would necessarily resonate with the mainstream audience.
Yeah, we got a comment from Feeney that said D'Angelo and the mafioso gimmick is the kind of stereotypical stuff Vince would have loved in 1982. He might have loved it in 82, but he was even more likely to put it up. Oh, God, he would. But yeah, late 80s, he definitely would have put it on.
Real
Sean,
quick,
if you got another one, go ahead.
If they are set on taking this to Raw or SmackDown, the one thing they have working in their favor is that they changed the entrance music to something that is a little more serious and isn't basically Enzo and Cass adjacent, right? So,
yeah, at best, it almost would have been better if I was thinking about them, but instead I was thinking of American Italian restaurants.
Kelly just said it would be better if he was thinking about Enzo Amore. How about that?
Oh, I didn't know if you knew how much I disliked Enzo.
Oh, gosh.
But apparently you have heard my show on NXT.
Can't teach
We've
that,
only
Kelly.
been doing this for almost 5 years, Kelly.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm going to try not to lose my mind. Enzo Amore was just mentioned. Sean, go ahead, because I should not be heard right now.
And the weird part was Carmella was with them at first too. That was weird. Yeah. Oh my!
She was their hairdresser at first.
Yeah.
Just think about that. She was a hairdresser, and then they brought her on as their. Kelly looks like he's about to have an aneurysm, so maybe we should.
Okay,
we're talking about Kelly's two favorite wrestlers, Enzo and Carmella. So
I
Well,
have
Chelsea- what about Chelsea
have kind of made my peace
And Zack
with
Ryder.
Carmella.
You
Like
did. You did.
over the
I'm in
course
pain right
of
now.
a
It's
handful
okay.
of years, I got it. But Enzo, okay, go on.
He was bad. He was bad. Oh, so going back to, I was going to say about Wes Lee, we were bringing him up a lot, and you guys were talking about him a lot. I only worry about him because I think he's super talented. There's no doubt about that. His promo skills have gotten a lot better over time. I do worry the more I see him. As far as they've really messed up Carmella so far on the main roster, I'm worried they'll do the same thing with Wes Lee. I'd be
I thought
very
you said
worried.
Carmella.
Oh no, Carmelo. Sorry, Carmelo. Oh, the little O on the end, Carmelo. But no, Carmella. Yeah, Carmella. You couldn't. No, it was what she was. I mean, there wasn't much to that. But with Carmelo, I just think they've done such a bad job. I do feel like they'd do the same thing with Wes. So I wanted to bring that up really fast because I am worried about it. And I wanted to talk about Sol Ruka a little bit too because I wanted to talk a little bit about. I know Kelly, I got to hear what you thought about the match, but I haven't heard Bruce and Nate's thoughts on it at the Heatwave as far as with her and Kalani. I like the match. I thought it was fine. I just don't like. Obviously, you had the Twitter where they're talking about the Ricochet stuff. I don't want it to get to the point where they get too like gymnastics oriented and they just try to do all this athletic stuff. I just want to see a good wrestling match. Yeah, you could have high spots in the match. I'm okay with that. When they try to go too crazy with it, you kind of lose me. And I thought at the beginning of the match, they just lost me trying to do all that. We know how much you guys can flip. Like we know that. Like that's fine. It's good. It's impressive. I enjoy it. But I felt like the match was too much about that, and it kind of took me out of it a little bit. So I wanted to hear what all you guys thought about the match as a whole, and where do you think Sol Ruka is going? Because again, they had the disqualification finish tonight, which again, I just think WWE as a whole is getting into the fact of if you're not going to have a finish to a match, sometimes like you need a DQ for certain reasons, but they're just going to that well too much. Where if you're just going to have two people in a match, have one beat the other, then have people attack afterwards. It's okay. You can do that. It's fine. So what do you guys think about the finish tonight and Sol Ruka as a whole and the match against Kalani at Heatwave?
I'll be brief because I know my thoughts are out there. I loved the match that Sol had with Kalani, and I know that their first 4 or 5 minutes were overly gymnastic-y.
Choreographed.
If you want to call that. But we see a lot of matches that are overly choreographed in the first handful of minutes, and they don't come off as well as this. I think that these two must have worked a lot together because once they got to the real wrestling portion of this match in minute, let's say 6, they really knew how to do their counters, their reversals and everything like that. That's why I thought they got away with this because of all the things we were doing here. As far as this match being a DQ, dude, I don't care. Because I do every other show and I literally, when I wrote down DQ, the first thing I thought is I don't remember the last disqualification on this show. It has been a long time. They are not going to that well almost ever.
There's been interference, Sean, but not DQs.
Yep. I could not believe that they went to a DQ finish because I have my notes and I write down, I'm annoyingly meticulous. I look at my notes and I'm like, you don't need to do that much shit, dude. It's fine.
That's why our reports are the way they are.
And exactly. I don't know the last time I wrote down DQ. So I thought that this match, if anything, there are more matches that could benefit from this kind of finish. But for this one and where all these women are in their various storylines, I think that was perfectly fine. And we also had a visual on who was going to win this match. It wasn't just a basic DQ to get out of that. Okay. We knew who was going to win this regardless. Go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah, so I didn't watch the match on Sunday. I only saw a couple clips because I went through the NXT's Twitter to kind of see what they were highlighting.
Oh, okay.
And to be fair, I guess because it was a PLE, they weren't putting too many clips on their timeline. But from what I saw, I saw the one where everyone is comparing to Ospreay and Ricochet. Cool. But the one spot that I kind of go into what Sean was asking about is, why the hell is Sol Ruka doing a springboard somersault lariat? Like, what extra, besides it just being a somersault looking cool, like what extra effect does it actually do, right? Might as well just have done a springboard lariat, and you might actually have hit more solidly on your competitor than doing the somersault and almost barely hitting her.
Have you actually seen that? She hit her pretty good.
The arm didn't come across as well, Nate, when I watched it. Okay. Maybe the camera angle made it seem like to you that it was good, but the camera angle they showed, there was no replay. It didn't seem like it landed its flush because the rotation she didn't see, right? So to me,
but that's okay.
Yeah, but Nate, you also keep thinking that you keep forgetting about Julia, and you keep thinking that Lola Vice wasn't showing real emotion last week. So I'm gonna take your opinion not as highly as I would take Kelly's at this point. All right, just saying. With Kalani Jordan, Sol Ruka, even Izzy Dame to a certain extent, we're getting more background onto more of their athletic background into their stories, right? They had the vignette about Dame and her volleyball. I don't know if it was last week or the week before that. We have the vignettes of Sol and I don't know if they're saying Kalani or Kaylani at this point, but their times in college and being gymnastics. So we're getting a lot of the athletic backgrounds to these wrestlers. That leads me to believe that someone like Izzy Dame might start incorporating something like a spike to the head as her finisher. It's just kind of hard because she's already so much bigger than everybody else. But I get your concern about it being overly choreographed. It didn't seem like it that much tonight. Maybe that's because Fallon Henley isn't one of those wrestlers who is more flippy and gymnasticy in her style. But it does seem like Kalani and Sol do rely on that a bit. But I go back to Tiffany Stratton NXT. When she first started and we saw the potential, what was she doing? All of her gymnastic stuff. Why? Because that's her base. That's what she was comfortable with. And it provided her that area to be comfortable and then move up and become what we saw her, I guess, on Saturday, become Miss Money in the Bank. Mm-hmm. This is what I was talking about with D'Angelo all those years ago. Use the amateur wrestling background into your style. Maybe it'll help more. And since the sirens come in, I will leave it at that.
You and your sirens over there in Honolulu. Didn't know there were so many, but
this is what happens when you. This is what happens when you live within like a half block radius of 3 hospitals.
Oh yeah.
I'm in the city.
In my hometown growing up, I was 2 blocks away from a hospital, but it was a town of 4,000, so almost everyone was within 2 blocks of the hospital. So I guess there's that. Sean, if you got one more, go ahead. Otherwise, we'll move on.
Yeah, so real quick, I just wanted to bring up that I didn't initially love the title change with Ethan, but I'm definitely intrigued because I'm a fan of Ethan Page. I think he's got a lot of potential. I like what they've done with him since he's come on NXT. Loving what Trick's doing, but I want to say I love what Javon Evans can definitely be. I mean, his promo skills will come along. I think they will get better over time. And the sky's the limit for him. I'm really excited to see what he can do because, like I said, when you're that good in the ring and you can do the stuff he does, as long as the promo stuff does come along, which I think it will, I think he'll get more comfortable with it. I'm excited to see what he'll do, and it's fun to be all three of you guys. It was really fun. I really enjoyed this, and hope to do it at some point in the future. Appreciate all you guys.
Thanks so much, Sean. I think that we are getting to a point where it could be real interesting with it's a sink or swim time for our champion. They believe in him, and they're going to see what he can do week after week after week. I will say that my wife, who watches with me not super frequently, let's say 1 out of 3 weeks, watched and took note of Ethan Page, and her first thought was, he has really small eyes. And her second thought was, he's pretty good on the mic. So, yeah, I'll say that somebody who does not have wrestling interest took note that Ethan Page can kind of do this. So I, as somebody who watches the complete picture, is still waiting to see if that will be. I know that's kind of a big. That's kind of it's a big question. But Nate, if you have anything beyond that before I move on.
No, just move on.
Bruce.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Kelly, but I seem to remember that you and I were pretty high on Page coming in because we knew of his background. So I'm guessing that neither of us are surprised that, oh my gosh, he can do this. Wow.
I was high-ish. So I saw him live at a show in at First Ave where they shot Purple Rain, and he had a match with Colt Cabana. Cabana did the job, but they had a really good match together. And then I like what he's done as a heel, but I didn't know if there was a seat at the table for him. So I wouldn't have been surprised either way. But it looks like they're trying to create one. And if he turns out to be Bobby Roode, not a problem, because Bobby Roode made a little money and he's a valuable part of the roster to this day as a road agent and things like that. So that's the worst case scenario. When I was on the media call with Shawn Michaels, he acknowledged that both Spears and Page were, in addition to being wrestlers that they wanted to get to the next level, they were asked to get other wrestlers to the next level, to help them develop the other workers, especially heels, on the roster. So I thought maybe that meant these guys were not in the plans for championships. So if anything, the fact that I was on the media call made me more surprised that he won the championship. So I don't know if there's any more ways to say I'm surprised he became championship, then let me say them now. Nate, if you want to bring on Steve Repsher, go ahead.
We got Steve.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, Steve. How are you doing?
All right, not too bad. And yourself?
I'm not bad myself.
Okay.
What'd you think?
Thought it was a pretty decent show. It was mentioned in the chat, but want to bring up one aspect of NXT that was not included on tonight's show, and that's the Women's Championship. There was, other than in the Heatwave recap, we did not see or hear of Roxanne or Lola Vice or whatever might be next. And I just wanted to add from Sunday night, was I wrong in feeling completely detached from any sort of investment in that championship changing hands? Because you've already mentioned her name. The news just came today that she's cleared. She's going to wrestle one more time with Marigold.
Yes, sir.
And when do we see her? I don't know about the Great American Bash because it's on Sci-Fi because of the Olympics. Do they wait until the first Sunday in September when they just announced a No Mercy PLE in Denver?
Okay, this is a good question because I think that their not being on the show today is definitely a sign that I don't know if that's a sign that Julia's next, but I think there's a pretty good chance that she's next, and they have to, I don't know, stall to figure out how they want to do this. On the other hand, tonight was a very busy show, so it could just be that they wanted to get a lot of these acts on because OTM, they're out there, but they don't know where they want to go with them yet. Izzy Dame, Tyson DuPont, Tyreek Igwe, there are a lot of acts that they want to get out there. And if this, I think it's a problem that this is a developmental show, but if they're doing PLEs every 4 weeks, then when do you put on these acts that are just trying to hit TV, not trying to hit takeover shows? Takeover, I said, because I'm old. Takeover shows, but trying to get just to TV, period. So I think this is, maybe I'm taking this bigger picture than you wanted, but I guess that's where I ended up. Bruce, go ahead.
So yeah, Julia's obviously the person coming up. I don't think it was bad that they were necessarily off from the clips I watched. It looks like it was kind of a physical match. Again, I didn't watch the entire PLE, so I can't say too much. But the other thing about it being a busy show is that it was a busy show specifically in the women's division tonight. There were a lot of things going on in the women's division, and all of those matches had nothing to do with either of the women's titles, which is something that I like to compliment NXT for, because even Raw and SmackDown, sometimes it only gets caught up with the title picture. And here in NXT, tonight's show, you have matches that really might not have any title implication aside from the winner maybe moving up a little bit in the theoretical rankings. So I'm not as upset that we didn't see it, mostly because it was pretty definitive on the ending. Perez hit 5 pop rocks, including one on the announce table, to get the victory.
Yeah.
So
and
kudos
one
to
pretty bad.
Okay, well, they of course they didn't show that on NXT
No, they
timeline,
didn't.
but
it was like the fourth of the 5 that ended the match.
So
yeah,
I mean,
that would have been the last one, but because it was not good, they did one
they
more.
did a 5th one,
Yeah.
right? I think Vice the first person they've had kick out of Pop Rocks?
I was wondering that because she did kick out. I think there was another 1 or 2 that kicked out after she added the
Crossface.
The crossface, but I'd be hard pressed to tell you who did it for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, regardless, they still put Vice over a bit by having her kick out of so many, or at least take so many Pop Rocks before losing the match. And so keeping them both off might have been a good idea, especially since coming out of the show, the focus was on the one title change, which was the main event, and that rightfully took both the opening and the closing segments of tonight's show. So to me, it wasn't as big of an issue that Perez or Vice weren't on the show aside from the video package. I think kind of giving a reset and letting some other stories, particularly in that division, breathe was probably the right call.
In the chat, Azan pointed out that Lyra did kick out of that. That is the person that I was not thinking of because she's not in the brand anymore. But that
And
makes
I didn't
sense.
like her title reign either. So.
Nate, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okie dokie. Steve, go ahead if you got another one.
I just wanted to go back to Sunday again. For some reason, I thought that when they flip-flopped the scheduling and had the main roster PLE on Saturday, followed by the NXT show, that would affect attendance, because all the people who go to the site probably go for the main roster show, and then they could use Sunday to book out of town. But I thought it was a very, very well attended PLE, and I think it goes to show a little bit and double back on the questionable call of having the battleground at the UFC venue, and they only had like 500 people. They could have made some money on that if they just put it in a real venue.
So I did the post PLE show with Chris Lansdale, and even though they shoot that, they produce it in a way that makes it look like a sellout. He said it was probably about 50% capacity, but that's not bad for the Scotiabank Arena when it's just an NXT show. So go ahead, Steve.
According to WrestleTix, it was set up for 10,000 and change, and they sold more than 9,000 tickets. So they were pretty close to a sellout of what they had set up to sell.
Okay, and that number is even better than what he was thinking on that on our podcast. So yeah, I like that they're doing these on PLE weekends. I wish there were fewer ones for NXT because I feel like a developmental brand can sustain fewer of these. In hot moments, they can do more of these shows, and but in lesser moments, and there's going to be a lot of those in NXT. I think they can do fewer of them, but they're committed, so there they are.
How long was the show on Sunday?
It was about 3 hours proper. After they had an hour long pre-show, and then it went about 3. But if you pull up the show on Peacock now, it'll be 2.5 because they remove all of the
ads,
the commercials that they do. So it was the norm.
That's good.
Yep. Do you have any other comment on that, Bruce?
So one thing that going back to, I think what Zahn was saying when he was on with us, is that, or maybe it was the question about the family and Chase U. Some of this does travel. I remember when they had their PLE in California, whichever one that was, Chase U got a big reaction. The clip I saw from Sunday, Trick got huge reactions in Toronto. I'm not sure what Chase U's reaction was like or anyone else's reaction was like because I didn't get to see all the show. But some of these do travel. Now, the NXT audience isn't the same as the Raw or SmackDown audience. We've talked about this before. So it is good to see NXT in a larger or have a larger capacity of fans there and fill it up to make it look like a mainstream, larger, what you'd expect of a mainstream wrestling show. I just want us to temper our expectations a bit and realize that Toronto is also one of the hotspots of wrestling for crowds. So this kind of attendance and reaction might not be the same as if they went to, say, Bangor, Maine, which they think they have done before, right? So I think that's what my qualifier would be about Sunday and the attendance and the reaction.
Anything on that, Nate?
Yeah, I mean, I think that probably makes sense. Toronto is certainly a hot wrestling crowd.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Bruce is probably right on that one. But yeah, we'll just keep going.
Steve, if you got one more, go ahead. Otherwise, we will start running for the exits here.
No, you can go ahead and lace up your sneakers and start hoofing, and I will take my leave and wish you all a good evening.
Thank you, Steve, as always.
Okay.
All right. So matches we didn't talk about. Let's go women. Carmen Petrovic over Ariana Grace. Yeah, this one came out of their match last week, and JC Jane's involved, Jasmine Nix is involved, Fallon Henley's involved. They were convinced they could get all the women on this show. Thea Hale beat Izzy Dame later in the show, and Tatum Paxley showed up on that one as well. My wife said she thought Carmen Petrovic was Natalia, and then she saw the maple leaf and thought that was even more certain. And then I had to remind her how old we were, and that it was not in fact her, but it was another blonde, another blonde Canadian who could go. So on the women's matches that we had tonight, Bruce, if you have anything.
So Petrovic versus Grace actually stemmed from their pre-show match on Sunday where they were a tag team and defeated Jane and Nix. So they showed a bit of the video today that they posted on Twitter where they were in Ava's office, and Grace basically said, "Oh, this is no longer a tag team because I'm better." And Petrovic said, "Oh, you want us to use better?" And then Ava made the match. And Grace, being Grace, turned to Ava. They cut this off from the broadcast today, but in the video, Grace turned to Ava and said, "You're tearing tag teams apart," and just something like that, right? And I just howled with laughter because it's just perfect for her character, right? So match was what I expected it to be. I think for Ariana Grace, she's bigger than expected in the ring, in the women's division on NXT specifically. And so sometimes I think she looks a little awkward because she is wrestling people who are much smaller than her at times. And Petrovic is smaller than her, but the match itself was, I think, good. The person who I thought would go over did go over, although it was a bit sudden how the ending came with that cyclone kick to the back, just really out of nowhere. But again, Petrovic, far cry from her first match. Grace, I cackle every time I see her on TV and hear her talk. It's great. And then you get to Izzy Dame and Thea Hale. And again, going back to what I said earlier, I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing Izzy Dame incorporate some volleyball mannerisms into her character. It's a bit more difficult to do that than gymnastics or amateur wrestling, obviously. But, watch her do a springboard spike or a leaping spike or something, and I think that could work. The match itself, Thea said she was going to chase you back into the winning column. They did that. Nothing. Again, a lot of these matches tonight were what you'd expect. Nothing surprising, nothing extravagant, nothing too dull. They were there. They advanced stories, good A to B stuff. The one DQ did happen, but there was also interference in multiple matches, though not in the Heritage Cup match again, which is surprising. So, again, there was just a lot of focus on the non-women's titles storylines tonight, and I like that because it gives more people outside of those pictures time to develop, time on TV, time to get the experience that they normally wouldn't get if you're only focusing on the Women's Championship and now the Women's North American Championship.
Tonight was the night that I let my wife know that Ariana Grace was the daughter of Santino Marella, and she was not surprised because because goofiness from one generation to another, she can understand that because it runs in my family as well. Nate, on tonight's women's wrestlers.
So yeah, I mean, Carmen Petrovic and Ariana Grace. I mean, short match, but I think it got to showcase a little bit for both of them. Obviously the Fallon Henley attack kind of being the bigger story coming out of that. Speaking of, I do like the pairing, or I guess it's not a pairing because it's three people.
A trio.
But the trio of JC Jane, Jasmine Nix, and
Fallon Henley.
Fallon Henley, thank you.
They're trying to get so many people over at the same time.
I know. There's so many names. But I do like that pairing or that trio. It's I think that they're going to have like a pretty good heel run there. Then what was the other one? Thea Hale and Izzy Dame. Izzy Dame, man, she really needs to do something to stand out a little bit more. And I know you've been guilty of this too, Kelly. Like we see Izzy Dame on TV, and then we're like, who is that? Even though we see her every single week. Just something about her just does not stand out to me. And I'm sure we're not the only ones that happens to. Again, I thought this was a decent match. Again, kind of just building to all the stuff with I wanted to say Dante Chen, Duke Hudson, and the North American title. But still, again, nice little match for Thea Hale there. Anytime I get to see her wrestle in the ring is a treat for me. She's still not the most well-rounded in the ring, but man, just the energy and the charisma there. I'll take that any day. So thumbs up for me.
This is definitely leading to the three heels versus Kalani Jordan, Soluk, and Thea Hale, right?
Yeah. Yep. So there you go. I wanted you to say Dante Chen too. But I
always want to say Dante Chen.
Yeah, because I wanted that to be correct. In the tag team division, we got Gallus over Tyson DuPont and Tyreek Igwe, and why? That's because they have another match to lose. Gallus wins one to lose one. And OTM beat the OC also. So lots of stuff going on in the tag team division. I don't know. It seems like there's just a lot of 50-50 here, but at least there's a bunch of teams, which wasn't always the case, Nate.
So with the Good Brothers and OTM, I thought this is a good match, especially for OTM. Obviously, I mean, they got the win here, but we don't necessarily see them out wrestling every single week. So it's good to see them on TV and getting some of that time. To be honest with you, though, the feud that I'm more interested in is between Meechin and Jada Parker. I feel like that to me has had more legs between these six people. Again, decent match. But yeah, like I'm not sure what they're doing with the Good Brothers here. Like they bring them down to NXT, veteran tag team. They're they're already been defined down from being on the main roster and just losing and losing and losing and losing. They bring them down to NXT as a team that you should take seriously and kind of fear, if you will. And they've just continued to lose. It's hard to take them seriously as a threat. And in order for them to really put people over and make new stars, you got to be able to think of them as a threat. So I guess that's kind of a bit of a nitpick for me with the booking from the Good Brothers. Plus, I really just enjoy seeing them on my screen anyway. I'm a bit of an unabashed Good Brothers fan, so there's that. What was the other tag match? I gotta scroll up here.
Gallus.
Gallus versus Tyreek and Tyson here. I want, because I mean, this is what, the second or third time we've seen Tyreek and Tyson on TV, if I'm not mistaken. I want to see some more of these guys. I feel like they've got some great energy and some great charisma here. Sucks to see them lose to Gallus, who's in a very similar boat to the Good Brothers. I feel like they've been defined down quite a bit over the year, really the year and a half or so. So it kind of sucks to see maybe a newer and fresher tag team kind of lose, but considering the story they're telling, like Kelly said a little bit ago, Gallus, they're going to lose one to win one, or win one to lose one rather, to put somebody else over. So, like I said, I think it was a good match. The The interference by Joe Coffey, certainly expected, considering you've got one person in a heel trio kind of just standing there not doing anything. So yeah, like I said, thumbs up for me here. Really looking forward to seeing some more out of Tyreek and Tyson, though. I really liked what I saw out of them tonight.
Cool, folks. I think I covered every match here. Well, we definitely did. If there's any segments that you need to do, we will do them now. Otherwise, we will say our goodbyes. Bruce, I heard your voice.
You did not throw to me for these tag matches, so
let
me talk about them real quick.
Look at that. I didn't.
Yeah. Gallus versus Igwe and DuPont, since we're already on that topic from Nate's final conversation. Why did Gallus win? Because they're a trio and they need someone to lose to MSK or the Rascals next week. And that's basically why they won. Igwe and DuPont, I think the last time we actually saw them was they were brawling in the back with Gallus, so we didn't even see them on the ring. They do look good. My thing with them is, how are you going to separate yourselves from the other tag team acts who have explosivity, who have athleticism? I don't really feel characters yet from Igwe and DuPont. That's probably coming. We did see vignettes about their backgrounds. I think it was DuPont who was a shot putter, and I forget what Igwe was. But they do have athletic backgrounds as well. So looking forward to what they do in the future. But as of right now, what they're lacking for me is I just don't feel any sort of character. They're just two dudes who are tag teaming in there, and they come from athletic backgrounds. All right. The other tag team match, OTM and the Good Brothers. I like the walkout promo from OTM before the match started with Nima talking about his nose getting broken by the Good Brothers and how he's going to pay them back. And Jada Parker coming forward and just laying it in there. I mean, we know Parker is the star of the group. We know she is the one that the stories revolve around because she came on and just became this presence. She has this charisma immediately, and she's backed it up in the ring, right? I don't think that she's done anything since she joined OTM that made me believe or that I thought, oh, she messed up there. And everything seems to have gone just perfectly fine for her. And to Nate's point, I'm much more interested or invested, I guess, in Parker versus Meechin, especially after that street fight they had last week, which was a fun street fight to cover and to watch. So good victory for OTM here. Basically as clean as you can get in a tag team match, right? You just knock the other tag team member off of the apron, hit your finisher 1, 2, 3. So that puts them up another notch. And going back to Steve's point about Roxanne not being on the show, we also didn't see Axiom or Nathan Fraser on the show, the tag team champion too. So a couple champion not present on the show tonight. Honestly, they didn't show Kalani Jordan outside of the Heatwave video as well too, right? So we only saw one of the champions, or two of the champions. We barely saw Oba Femi, but we basically only had one title being the focal point of the show, and that was the men's NXT Championship, which again, coming off a Sunday, makes a lot of sense. So.
Yeah, I thought we'd have more idea of the directions we were going, but they definitely held their cards close to the chest here. So that, I believe, is our show. I'm Kelly Wells. You can find me on social media at Spooky Milk or at spookymilk.games. And looking over my notes, they were very, very busy, but not as busy as they will be in the weeks coming to August 6th at Great American Bash. Bruce, who are you?
I'm Bruce Lee Hazelwood. You can find me at B_Lee253 and my report for tonight's show up at the Torch and on the VIP side.
Nate?
NateLindberg.com. See the things that I do. Nate Lindberg on Twitter.
And always fun for you guys too in the chat who are saying so. And we will see you in 7. Cheers.